Good morning and welcome to IRONMAN 70.3 European Championship Tallinn. Tallinn is the capital and the most populous city of Estonia, and it's located in North Estonia on the Gulf of Finland of the Baltic Sea. Tallinn's atmospheric old town is an enthralling hodgepodge of medieval cobblestone streets and spires. This is the 14th event of the IRONMAN Pro Series and the 8th IRONMAN 70.3 race. We got 2,500 points up for grabs. Will be awarded to the pro men's and women's winner.
And we have two very strong pro fields today. On the women's side, we have Maya Stage-Nilsson and Kat Matthews, who are currently 4th and 7th, respectively, in the IRONMAN Pro Series, as well as Els Visser and Lauren Brandon, who are 12th and 14th, and some more exceptional athletes, Kate Koran, Sif Bendix Madsen, Tamara Jewett, and Solveig Luthseth. For the men's, it's headlined by the 2023 champion Peter Hamerick, along with Robert Callan and Anthony Costis. But we have been infiltrated by Olympians, Hella Gaines, Sam Dickinson, Kevin McDowell, all looking to have an impact. There are 4 male and 4 female pro slots and 75 age group slots for the 2025 IRONMAN 70.3 World Championships in Marbella, Spain.
Yeah, great to see this mix of athletes coming in here, get those little Olympic injection to up the pace a little bit. But some of our old kind of standard pros that we see out here, an ex-Olympian, but one that we kind of take as our own on screen right now. But Roka, weather, 61 degrees Fahrenheit, clear sky, wind just 4 km an hour out of the southeast, and 72% humidity.
And I'm going to be the European conversion. That's 16 degrees Celsius
there you
for
go.
those
Appreciate
in Europe.
Appreciate that very much.
Very little wind. It looks like a pretty magic morning down there at the beach.
There we go. More of our athletes getting ready. There we go. I'm Matt Lieto. With me is Sid. Sid, we've got a great race on tap for today. Again, one of kind of the last Pro Series races before we get into World Championship season. So kind of a lot on the line.
Yeah, I'm super excited about today's race. Like we said, with on the men's side, really excited to see how Sam Dickinson is going to go. You know, just a couple of weeks after Paris, and obviously in Paris, very focused on being that relay specialist in domestique. Yep. Also, you know, Kevin McDowell as well. But then, kind of tough to go past Peter Hamerick from last year. And then the women's side, Kat probably has to be favourite for today, just from her run this year and going for sort of full points in the Pro Series so far, but excited to see the Norwegian Solveig Luthseth. I hope I'm getting that pronunciation right. It is going to test our language skills today.
For sure.
And then Tamara Jewett is so dangerous on the run, coming over from the US, and Lisa Norden and Els Visser you can never count out.
You can't, and I got to shout out to there's some cute puppies out there. Always excited to see that on race morning.
Puppy cam.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously the Pro Series is super important, and we've got the points allocations to share with y'all, because again, a lot is up for grabs here today, this morning in Estonia. And as an IRONMAN 70.3 event, the pro men's and women's first place finishers receive 2,500 points. First at IRONMAN 70.3 World Championship earns 3,000 points. First at an Ironman event earns 5,000 points. First at an Ironman World Championship earns 6,000 points. So points for all remaining pro finishers behind first place will diminish at a rate of 1 point per second deficit to the first place finish time. For example, if second place finishes 1 second behind first place, they will earn 2,499 points. Top 5 results will count towards the year-end point standings, and only a maximum of 3 Ironman results will be counted. But take away from that, every second matters.
Every second matters. Yeah, and then the IRONMAN Pro Series in the bonus pool money allocation. The IRONMAN Pro Series champions who earn first place in the pro women and men's points standing at the end of the series will earn $200,000. Second place is $130,000. Third place $85,000. Down to 10th place, which is $10,000. And the top 50 in the point standing, and the total prize money for the top 50 is a total of $1.7 million. The IRONMAN Pro Series year-end bonus pool money earned in addition to any individual prize point is earned during the series, and today's total event prize purse is $75,000, paying 10 deep.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of jack for sure. A lot up for grabs, and certainly a good motivator for these athletes to put their best foot forward and get as many points as possible for today's race, but also for the series as we move on. And we can see the athletes, that was Mark Dubrick there getting ready. He's going to shine here and not too much longer. But athletes are trying to find this, kind of walking out right now, the run.
I think it's quite a long run into the beach.
It's 150 meters, yeah. So they need to know kind of where ebbs and flows are in that. But we're going to have the start of the swim here in just a few minutes when we get back from this quick commercial break. Welcome back to the IRONMAN 70.3 European Championship Tallinn. We got our athletes just a few minutes away now, about a little over 20 minutes till we have our first athletes in the water. We can see them warming up and getting ready to get out on course. Let's go over the course that these athletes are going to be rolling around on today. There we go. So the Roka swim course is 1.2 kilometers, 1.2 miles. It's just one lap, and it's an updated swim, new swim venue than we were planning on. And the swimming will take place at Stromi in the sea, and the start will be on the sandy beach. And athletes will make one lap of the 1.9 kilometers, a little left-hand turn, a couple right-hand turns, and then back into the shore where they will run into transition one.
And then the athletes are going to head out onto the full gas bike course. Now it is slightly long. It's 91.4 kilometers, 56.8 miles, and that is due to the moving the swim and new T1. So those extra distance just comes from T1 getting to the original course. It's 2 loops. It's flat and fast. It's a unique mix of city and countryside. And then they come back to the village, back to Tallinn on the second lap and to T2.
There you go. And then after T2, we know they're going to be heading out onto that Hoka run course, 21.1 kilometers, 13.1 miles. That's 2 laps on this course. And the 21.1 kilometer course is, again, 2 laps, and it has 8 water stations on these 2 laps. And the IRONMAN 70.3 Tallinn running course is one of the fastest in the world and offers picturesque views of Tallinn Bay. The course is flat and doesn't have too many turns, so we should expect some super fast times out there today. And the finish is right in front of the Roka Almar Shopping Center. Elevation gain just 10 meters per lap, total of 20 meters. So again, it's going to be pretty darn fast.
I don't think there's much elevation in Estonia.
No, there's not too much going on. And again, these athletes not only fighting for today's finish and the prize money awarded there, but also in that Pro Series. So let's take a quick look at the Pro Series points standings and some of our top athletes. Got on the front there, that's Matt Hansen. He had a 14th place finish at Ironman Frankfurt. Did actually get him a little bit more points than he had before. We had Jackson Laundrie just behind him, still in 2nd place. Patrick Lana, big mover, getting back up onto the podium position in Frankfurt as well. Zuch moved his way back down actually into 4th place from those standings. And then Chris Leiferman as well. Matthew Marquardt holding 6th place. Perrine in 7th. Schuster in 8th place, Hogenhag holding down 9th place, and our last top 10 holder right now is Gregory Barnaby with a great result at Frankfurt just this last week. Moved up 13 spots, Sid.
Yeah, and then on the women's side, Jackie Herring is still our series points leader. She finished 2nd at Lake Placid. That's the last race she's done so far. Danielle Lewis had a great win at Placid, so she moved up 7 spots. She's in 2nd. Alice Alberts again, 3rd at Lake Placid, so moving up 8 spots. Maya Stage-Nelson, she's racing today. Her last Pro Series was a 7th place at 70.3 Sables d'Olonne. And Kylie Simpson is currently in 5th place. Daniela Bleimel sitting in 6th. Kat Matthews also obviously racing today. She's finished 1st in both her full Ironmans. She's done Vittoria Gasteiz and Ironman Texas, so has a full 10,000 points, hoping to get the 2,500 for the 70.3 today. Erin Schenkels from Canada, she is holding in 8th place. Fenella Langridge in 9th, and Lottie Wilms rounds out the top 10 from the Netherlands as well.
And I think it's important as we look at those standings, to also look down below and see how many races these athletes have actually completed, right? So you can see athletes that are stacking it forward in the season, like a Matt Hansen, done a lot of races. He's got 5 scoring races. But then you look at someone like Kat Matthews, who's racing today. She's going to jump up a lot of spaces because she has no 70.3 scored with this race, obviously World Championship coming up at the end of the season. So a lot of big moves possible out here on the course today, and we'll get to it after this break. Just about 15 minutes to go till we have our top men getting into the water. And worth noting on the right-hand side of our screen, these are some of our notables and our cap colors that we have for these athletes, so we can do our best to recognize them when they're out on course. Peter Hemrick certainly deserves one of those. Anthony Costas is one that we often see out at the front animating these races on the swim and the bike. Dubrick, we're going to see him near the front of the swim, no doubt. As well as Yela Heens, Justin Nishlak, Henry Rappo, Panagiotis Betaros, Sam Dickinson, and Kevin McDowell. And as you pointed out, Sid, this kind of Olympic injection of pace, I think we're going to see that in the swim. And you have an athlete like a Mark Dubrick, who's like now kind of used to being the fastest swimmer. He probably has his work cut out for him with those two, yeah?
Yeah, potentially, like with Sam Dickinson, obviously, 1.9 kilometer swim isn't too much difference from the 1.5 in the Olympic distance. So I think that's where we see the speed of they're really going to take it out hard.
Yeah.
And it will probably stretch out some of those longer distance athletes.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's smart for those Olympic athletes to try to get, as much time up the road as they can to kind of settle in. They've done triathlon before, obviously a lot and very, very high level. We got 2 Olympic medalists that we're talking about in that relay. But it's a little bit different when you're talking this time trial effort and the distance. So the more time you have to settle in, the better, as we see Peter Hemrick lining up here for introductions in just a few minutes.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't think actually Sam Dickinson has done one 70.3 back in 2022. But obviously he was focused on being a very specialist relay athlete. So although we did see Christian Blumenfeld last week go from the Olympics up to Frankfurt and do it pretty successfly.
He seemed like he did okay.
I think he did okay.
A reasonable race, I would say.
And then so we also have the female pro notables with our coloured caps, our Skittles, we call them. Yellow cap is Maya Stilge-Nilsson, Kat Matthews in the green, Elsvissa pink, Tamara Jewett in orange, Lauren Brandon in the pink. I mean, she's probably, I would imagine Lauren's going to be leading out the swim. Purple or violet, I think it is Kate Curran. She is a very good swimmer. She might be able to get on Lauren's feet. I think Kate swam with Taylor Nibb in Oceanside.
Yep.
Grace Tech in green, Carolina Paul in orange again, Sif Bendix Madsen in the violet colour, and Lisa Norden in yellow as well. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to identify some of those pros in the swimmer in the water.
And they are off, Sid, out on course. Officially high knees, loose arms. We see Dubrick on the right-hand side of the screen trying to get a great run in for him. Great setup for someone who's a fantastic swimmer, but also one of the fastest runners in the sport. This shot is so awesome. Look how fast.
Look how much they're spread out already.
Yeah, it's already super
crazy.
super spread out. And, that's one reason maybe the side-to-side is okay in this condition, because you can get such a long run in. But then we see athletes try to do a dolphin dive. Nope, still too shallow.
Yeah.
And then they go again, and it'll really start piling up now. And it's going to be very, very condensed as these athletes still try to get that. Now it's a slower run, slower walk. And, we're going to see the best swimmers and the best open water athletes continuing to try to get to the front. But Sid, tell us, how much more exhausting is it to start a swim this way than just starting off with a swim?
Oh, I was gonna ask you that question. Well, I personally like it because it's got a lot of running.
Yeah.
So it's more than I can run as far as I like before I start swimming. But yeah, it's super exhausting because it gets your heart rate high straight away, and you're having to lift your knees up. You've got the resistance of the water, and then you're going from diving in to getting back up again. As you can still see, it's pretty shallow a long way out. I actually think the whole of it's only sort of 2 meters, 2.5 meters deep for the whole swim.
So there may be sections where we see them jumping up again as well. But
that's the first turn, boy, and they're still running out.
To your point, you said for you like it because it's gives you more time to run. But for me, I still feel like it still is an advantage for the good swimmers, because someone who's maybe not as good a swimmer that's a great runner is going to be then just gassed.
Yeah.
And so their form goes and all that. Where a great swimmer, maybe they have more of an ability. They're used to those higher reps, that high effort, and can control their form while in that state of fatigue.
The only thing is, often it helps get those of us who aren't as good as we get further out quicker, so that as those good swimmers come past, we've got a bit of time to kind of try and latch on feet briefly before they head off and we don't see them again. We're still back at the back.
Just a matter of time. A matter of time.
But you could see then, they were, it was very shallow. They were still, swimmers were standing up and running out right to that first turn buoy.
And you can see athlete on the forward left-hand side of the screen, 2 athletes actually, getting a bit of a gap on the rest chasing.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just we'll try and get some shots to see what coloured skittle cap they are. I think we had a good view of Henry Rappo on the start line. He was in the pink cap. He's one of the locals here. 6-time Estonian champion, and I think when he didn't make the Olympics, or knew he wasn't going to make the Olympics, his team has sort of turned it to full distance. There's been a few fisticuffs going on there.
Yeah, totally. We can see trying to get around this buoy, making sure that they all get around that buoy. We saw Mark Dubrick in that lavender cap. He was about 3rd or 4th behind a bunch of silver caps when we saw it. Actually, it looks like this is just a sighting buoy, so I think these athletes can go around either side, but some of those athletes thinking they had to go around it really kind of changing course, but that's an advantage. We can see the athletes that stayed right, and while all of the other athletes went left, and they're actually probably moving up 5 or 6 spots by having that wherewithal to know that they didn't have to go around that buoy. And wherewithal is challenging in a swim, Sid, especially when your heart rate's through the roof and your head's in the water. It's kind of hard to be aware, so great for those athletes to be able to see what's going on. But right now, still, the only cap I'm really seeing that stands out in our pre-race favorite caps is that cap of Dubrick, and he's sitting about 4th.
What colour did you call it? Lavender.
I'm going to go with lavender.
Yeah.
Purple, we can call it?
No, violet, violent, I call it. Yeah.
Oh, violent. But the shark would certainly be in a violent color.
Yeah. I like lavender. It does look, it's funny, when they're on the beach, it looked pancake flat, but when you got those views down now, there does look like there's a bit of a ripple. And I wonder if there is a little bit of a current. We're getting a bit of a zigzag, or that might just be the
I think that
athletes trying to sight, or not being very good at sighting.
Yeah, I think that first sight buoy threw a lot of athletes out. And again, a higher heart rate in that first 200 meters than probably they're used to, because you start with that run. I mean, it's hard to explain that feeling you get when you're running as fast as you can. Then you dive in the water, realize you can't breathe whenever you want to anymore, and then you're trying to swim as fast as you can. It is absolutely brutal, and something that a lot of athletes will practice in preparation, kind of ins and outs in the pool and that sort of thing. But this athlete, great long extended stroke, again, in a little bit of chop, Sid, but has a gap on those athletes behind him. I would not be surprised if that's one of our Olympic distance athletes. Actually, no, both of them have their caps. So there's a few athletes out here we don't necessarily we don't have the amount of caps to give every athlete.
So the other good swimmers in the field, it could be Justus Nischlag from Germany, but he's in a yellow cap, so that's me. Ignore me on that one.
Look at this, but Sid, this is a very, very significant gap that this athlete has. And so when you've got a chase group, and you can see a big jumble of athletes behind this athlete in first place, is it a benefit for an athlete to try to maintain this gap, or is it kind of wasted energy, or is he making the other athletes work harder? So all in the end, it's still a good thing for him.
Completely depends on his strength line, I think, for the rest of the swim. There also was a young German athlete, Hannes Butters, which is a very good swimmer, so it could very well be him if we can get a number on. If they're confident on their swim and they can get away and get onto the bike and get up the road, then I think they use their advantage. He's stretching out a massive amount now.
Gap.
Yeah. And it might be that once he gets on the bike, he can actually then just recover a little bit and let the guys catch him.
For sure. And I think a great tactic. But to me, if I'm looking at this field of swimmers, this is one of, as far as very elite swimmers that can be like off the front of a front pack, this this race has some of the best swimmers
Yeah.
in the sport that are really, really, really fast. And for this athlete, again, not to have a cap color that we've given him,
I know.
and to at this point have probably 15 or 20 seconds on a group that contains like 4 or 5 Olympians that just raced, that's have to really have every bit of that swim dialed in. Super impressive effort by this athlete. And again, we'll get a name or a bib number from him if possible. We always have bib numbers.
Classic,
it's
that
challenging.
it's the one that
Always.
goes off the front is the one we haven't given the cap to. So it's kind of guessing and just going on our predictions of who might be up there in the swim. So there are a couple that weren't with caps, but that's a pretty significant gap to the rest of the guys behind. So knowing that you're going out to a left-hand turn, but I breathe to the right, I would probably start then on the left, and I would probably start on the outside to give myself space, because not being that faster swimmer, rather than starting in the middle and getting stuck in sort of the melee. And
then one thing you'd see most likely if we would have had a camera on the women during the men's start, you would have women pointing, be like, oh, wait, this is where they went, or this is that. And definitely students and watching the athletes in front of them to see, oh, I was going to go there, but it looks like people that went there kind of got bogged down
like
on that turn.
Yeah, especially on that running out.
Yeah.
Like, where was the quickest spot to start swimming?
Yeah, and they would have noticed the athletes going around that turn or that sighting buoy and not necessary. So, if the athletes are paying attention, big advantage for these women. And Sid, they are off.
They are off, yep. And that was, Sif Bendix Madsen on this front of the camera. Lisa Norden, you saw in the yellow cap. Look, there's huge, like just the ability on this, who's in the pink cap.
I think that was
Els Visser or it's probably Lauren Brandon, isn't it? She's streaking ahead, running over the water.
Tamara Jewett was one on the right, actually, in an orange cap that was hauling the mail to get ahead.
Which isn't, again, not a surprise as a runner.
No, not a surprise at all. And she's thinking, okay, this is an opportunity for me to get an advantage to maybe get into that front group as we see these athletes doing the best that they can. And it's funny, you look and you say, oh, Lauren Brandon's going to be up there, but she could lose 20 seconds on this because this is not her strength. She was a pool swimmer. She's not wasn't a surf lifesaver, anybody that spent a lot of time in the ocean and knowing these ins and outs. Obviously, he's competent at it, but this isn't a great thing for an elite pool swimmer.
That's right. Lauren probably won't like this start. It kind of, will mitigate some of her advantage that she has over the other athletes if you just straight go into a swim. But you see, so some of those front athletes have managed to get going in the swim, still running. As we, just go back and see Lauren Brandon is in one of the pink caps. We'll hopefully get some good close-up. I can see a yellow cap up front, which I would imagine is Lisa Norden still, or maybe... Yeah, I would imagine that's Lisa Norden.
Yeah, you would think Lisa Norden would be up there. Pole, I believe, is probably maybe that orange cap that is up there as well. Once these things spread out a little bit more, we'll be able to tell. Green cap kind of in the middle there. We saw Kat Matthews look like she's about 8th or 9th at this point. It could be Tech as well. We see these athletes now all swimming, taking this left-hand corner. We saw the men, even some still jogging this section, but women all swimming, and much more kind of consolidated group to start than we saw in our men's start.
That's right, and you get that great view, the women going around that first turn buoy, and you can see in the top of the screen the men going across the back, heading towards the far side of the course where they're going to turn and come back.
There we go. Nice side angle shot. Now up overhead shot, and we'll get some of those cap colors when we can. But it looks like a small little group is spreading out. And we can see in the top of the screen, top right, that men's field is completely spread out, single file, and huge gaps from the front of the race to the back, but still a big gap for our lone leader. Again, we'll give him all the accolades we can once we get him to the shore and can get his bib number. With just the glare on the water, we do have all these athletes do have bib numbers on their caps, but it's just quite hard for us to be able to see. But he's continuing to stretch that gap, Sid.
He is, I mean, it's actually quite hard to see our coloured caps as well today. It just looks like all one colour. But he's still kind of, it looks like it's stabilised and he's holding that gap. I think he made the biggest impact around that far turn and he's sort of holding that pace across the back. Yep. But we are going to be right back to see the end of this 1.9 kilometre swim. and we'll come back after this break.
Clearly on his own. He doesn't care if he's got other athletes to sit on. He's got all the energy in the world. So we're going to see him dolphin dive the next 100 meters, high kick, try to get himself in there.
I'm just going to run.
But yeah, he's going to have a pretty significant gap, Sid, by the time we get to the end of this swim.
Yeah, that's right. So you can see it's so shallow all the way in, pretty much from the first out to the first buoy, and then from that last buoy in. So a pretty long run through the water, dolphin diving, and up the beach. And then when he gets across that map, we'll be able to get you a name on who our current male leader is. I can see a purple cap. I'm guessing that is Mark Dubrick.
Oh yeah, he's right in there for sure.
Behind in the chase, and I think I saw a yellow as well. So our race leader now hitting the beach and heading up into T1.
Yep, and we're looking at the cap colors here. That is Butters.
Yeah. All right. I wasn't too far wrong.
Hannes Butters, a 21:07, super fast time. We can see him now running through transition. He's going to pull up the top of his kit, and we can see the Wahoo Element Rival swim split, 21:07 from Hannes Butters. And those athletes coming behind still haven't hit that timing met yet. So, Sid, that's a pretty big gap. And we do see, as you said, Mark Dubrick there, Sam Dickinson second.
And Yella Gaines was in there as well.
Transition.
There's Sam Dickinson going through.
Or through the mat, sorry. So then Asmussen, Dubrick, Bortola, Heli Heens, as you said, Batados, and Cabrera. That's our top 8. And those athletes were 30 seconds to 40 seconds behind our leader. Then we had Kevin McDowell coming through at 42 seconds down with Stepniak just on his heels. So top 10 within 45 seconds. But our leader, Hannes Butters, is able to give himself some time to settle in before the mayhem of this front group happens. And Sid, tell us about the advantage of being able to have 30 seconds possibly out on the road, lead on your own to quote unquote settle into the pace.
Yeah, I think you're going through transition, you're going through on your own, you've got a bit more space, time, you're not sort of panicked, I guess, with everyone else in there, and you can get out on the road and just settle in, get some nutrition on, and then just get into your rhythm without having to stress about making sure you're 12 meters behind the person in front, or all the surging that goes with the different athletes. That's quite a big chase pack that's coming behind. I'm sure they will probably catch him at some point, but I think just giving him the best opportunity to settle into his own race. He's pretty new. He's a pretty new pro. He's young. He's 22 years old. So I think he's just gonna make the most of the opportunity to get out in the front for as long as he can and settle into that race before they catch him. And because you can see, this is a huge chase pack coming out, and these guys have all got to get on their bikes, and then it's quite narrow, that that exit from T1, especially with that with the mount line, and then they've got to sort of sort themselves out to make sure they're all that 12 meters apart and find out who's going to, when I say slot in, I don't mean illegally slot in, but who's going to sort of what pace everyone's going.
Well, and you can see then with that shot, Sid, how important really it is and how much of an advantage it was for our leader to be able to get some time up front on his own. He doesn't have to deal with any of that. He's not that's where you're going to have athletes drop nutrition, clip a pedal, maybe go down, maybe get themselves a penalty somehow, even though I think our refs understand kind of that situation and will let things go at that point. But you take yourself out of that, and it's a stress that you're not worrying about. And any stress that you alleviate mentally and physically, you can then use to just propel yourself forward. And that's what our leader on course right now is doing.
Yeah, it was super narrow as they came out of transition. So if there was a group of you, I know there was a few looked like they're about to clip the barrier. But our male leader, Hannes Butters, was there on screen. He's a barista apparently, but I'm not sure in a cafe or just whether he likes making his coffee at home, which I would imagine is more the case.
Well, either way, I want a sample.
Exactly.
Maybe we'll...
Doesn't coffee and triathlon go together?
It certainly does.
Yeah.
It certainly does. But here we go. We have some of our chasers here going through and see if we can get more splits on those athletes that are chasing behind.
So interesting there, with it being so narrow out of T1, it's great if the athletes do a flying leap and keep moving. But as we saw in that last picture, a lot of them were just stopping and getting on that bike, which then obviously blocks up everything behind. And we can see we have our top 3 fastest males through transition 1 presented by Morton. So Peter Hemmerich was 1:23. Sam Dixon, no surprise there, his Olympic distance speed coming through. And Botalamadi is 1:26. So they were our fastest through transition.
There you go. Yeah, and I think we had some splits, Sid, on our men behind coming out of the water. And Maximilian Spurl was a full minute behind, which is a bit surprising. Martin Ulloa, minute and a half behind. Anthony Costas, a minute and a half behind as well. And some of our pre-race favorites, that Peter Hemmerich, the reason he had such a fast transition, he was almost 2 minutes behind the front of that race in 22nd place. So that's, on this flat course, it'll take a while to move back up. Robert Callan, 2 minutes back as well. Henrik Gosch at 2:02. And so that's George Goodwin at 3:13.
Oh, wow.
And this is an athlete we talked before we got on air years ago. I was thinking he had the chance to be a world champion in the 70.3 distance. Been struggling a bit, hoping he was have a good race, but 3 minutes back out of the water, that's a lot. But back on the women's.
Yeah, the only interesting thing about that as well is it looks like a pretty narrow bike path. So again, with that chase pack, it's going to be, it might be easier if you're on your own actually to navigate that bike path rather than the chase pack. As we saw that our leader, which in the women's race we were just with, which is Carolina Pohl. She's our current female leader in the swim. Women are 17 minutes in as we see more of our athletes heading into T1.
Yep, and a decent little run into T1. Still some of our pro men coming through, but our pro women are going to be here in not too much time, as we saw our leader hitting more of that shallow section of the course.
That's right. It looks quite a long run into transition, but at least I guess that gives you time to get your race suit up, get the wetsuit down. Matt, tell us, some of the athletes have their tri-suits up underneath their wetsuit. Some are down by their waist and they're trying to pull their race suit up whilst they're running. What's the difference there? Yeah,
great question. I think it kind of depends on the athlete, what they're used to, how tight that skin suit is, how much they've tried. But I don't think it's too much of a coincidence, and this is me just guessing or judging. We see more of the slower swimmers with their kits on. And it's counterintuitive because we see this athlete trying to get on his bike, loses his shoe. Lost a water bottle. So smart for him to stop and pick it up. You will actually get an unintentional littering card
and
if
he
you do that.
probably needed it.
Probably needed it as well.
And he's going slow enough that he can stop and get that one, yeah.
And generally that stuff, you're going to lose your bottles in the first couple miles. Is kind of how it is. But so what I was going to say is that the better swimmer you are, the more maybe you could give up that flexibility. But for some reason, the swimmers that aren't as good just think it's the same and they'll swim in that suit. And if you think about it, right now is a great example of our leader. That skin suit is designed to be in that position. That is what that is for, is to be as aerodynamic as possible. That is a very different position than reaching your arm over your head and trying to get as much water as possible. So the best swimmers that really depend on feel will either have that unzipped and loose, as we saw maybe Dubrick doing, or around that waist. And again, also only if there's enough time in that run to be able to get all the way back.
I'm going to quote you on that because I wear my suit down by my waist.
So you're a great swimmer.
So I'm a great swimmer. That is exactly what I'm taking away from that.
Put it in the books.
That point.
Counts.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not always right. I just often am.
No, I'm taking it now. We've seen our athletes actually. They're now back on the original bike course. I just saw the turn marks for the lap 2. So yeah, slightly long bike course today due to the new swim location down at the beach. So it's 91.4 kilometers or 56.8 miles. So they just had a little bit of an extension from the new swim on the beach to get onto the original bike course, which is where they are now.
Yep, and our leader's still out on his own. Has not gotten kind of swallowed up by that chase group yet. And again, great opportunity for him to just settle in and find his pace. what are the athletes doing that are, let's say an athlete that's searching for a top 5 and is a good cyclist. What are they thinking those first 5 miles tactically?
So I think you are, one, just getting yourself settled on the bike. So getting your shoes in, your feet in the shoes, tightening the nose, getting some nutrition on after the swim. I think then it's looking at who else is around you or in the group, and who you can work with. Are they the good cyclists? Are they the good runners? Who can you use or work with on the bike, or who might you need to drop if they're a particularly strong runner? I think as well at this stage, and particularly with a 70.3, it's so full gas from the start. But I think there's that chance that people will, depending what group they're in and who's around them, they'll kind of like bike above themselves to stay with that group early on and hope that that's their ticket through the rest of the race, and that they can hang on for the 90 kilometers or 91.4.
And considering that, would you then make alterations to, we talked about having the skin suit up or not? Are you making small, minimal gains choices? It's like, okay, this will help me be near the front coming out of transition. So when a group comes by, I have further to fall back, and I'm still kind of in contention for that group to kind of get a ride, as you said.
I'd definitely be thinking about my transition and where I was coming out the swim to see if I, not necessarily for a 70.3 would I put socks on. I probably wouldn't, but that's a consideration. Do you put your socks on in T1, or if you're in a pack and you don't want to lose that time, just get on and run with it. I think with this being such a long run into transition, because you've got that long run up the beach, it gives you that time. If you've got your suit down, you should be able to pull it up pretty quickly and not lose any time today on that.
Oh, for sure. And especially, after a couple more dolphin dives, you could actually, while you're still
they could be doing
wet,
that now.
You could be taking that wetsuit off and making those moves. But there's our athlete in orange cap. Again, we're assuming that is Pole.
It's not Jewett.
No, that was easy for us to tell if it's an orange cap. Sometimes the caps get mistaken, so we believe it is Pole, and we'll get a timing mat on her in just a few moments and be able to see those athletes chasing behind and what kind of gap that is. But fast swim for her is going to be about 25 minutes.
Yeah, and she is, one of our main good swimmers of the field. She does lead out a lot of races, so it's no real surprise to see her at the front. Maybe, a little bit surprised that Lauren Brandon wasn't leading out, but as you said, the beach start is not suited to Lauren, who loves her pool swimming.
She certainly does. And that's Caroline Pole, 25-10 is her split. And then a large group coming from behind. We can see Lauren Brandon on the left side of the screen. Our Wahoo Element rival split for that athlete is 25-10. And the athlete that actually had that fastest split was Caroline Pole. The gap starts on that.
So there we go. There's
screen.
Kat Matthews coming out of screen now, and Maya Suge-Nilsson right behind her, and Tamara Jewett.
So there we go. Yeah, those two athletes we were talking about maybe getting a bit of a gap. And that's Lisa Norden at 105 behind, so 20 seconds behind Grace Tech, just in front of Kairi Kavoya. And she was not too far in front of, we haven't gotten the splits yet on athletes behind Kat Matthews, but she must have been right in there. So this group of pre-race favorites that is chasing is actually in a pretty good position as we see our first place athlete, Caroline Pole, getting ready to get on that full gas bike course.
Yeah, that's right. So as you can see, the athletes have to get over that mat line. She's obviously just sorting out her visor on her bike, and then, a hop on. The other thing with a wetsuit swim that athletes can do, which we're seeing a lot of now, is wear the calf sleeves underneath the wetsuit. So the race last week, Ironman Frankfurt, went over Ironman Frankfurt European Championships. It was a non-wetsuit swim. So if an athlete wanted to wear calf sleeves, which can have some aerodynamics on the bike, they'd have had to put them on in transition, which I actually think Christian Blumenfeld did. But obviously with it being a wetsuit swim, they're able to have them on underneath as we now see. There's Lisa Norden and Kat Matthews.
Yeah, there's Kat Matthews. So Kat Matthews was 26:20, so just 5 seconds behind Lisa Norden. Tamara Jewett right there as well. So this is a powerhouse chase group. we see some of our other pre-race athletes coming through.
Yeah, that's Els Visser coming out. So
she has kind of missed a lot here, mostly because you have those athletes like a Kat Matthews and a Lisa Norden and a Tamara Jewett. They are going to be working together as bike powerhouses, and like her bridging up is just not going to happen. Not to those three.
Yeah, I mean, Els is a fantastic cyclist.
Certainly.
She's had some great races this year, whether she's ridden through fields or ridden off the front. But yeah, I think, as you said, with that pack up ahead, I think she'll be a little bit disappointed that she's that far back out the water. She's also had some great swims where she's been in the chase packs.
Yeah.
And
the thing with that kind of horsepower, those three athletes, again, they were 20 seconds off the front group. So what happens is you've got those chasers then pulling as fast as they can to that front group. That's pulling them even further away from Grace.
And there we go, Els Visser now coming into T2. I don't think she'll be, I think she'll be a little bit disappointed in this swim. I don't think she'll be panicking at this point. She's been in this situation before. Sure. She's very good at just, getting on and riding her own race. And I wouldn't be surprised if she's still up there somewhere. Oh, she's about to lose her bottle. I think she just...
And she didn't see it?
She didn't see it, unfortunately. So she's going to get a bit of a shock when she reaches for her... nutrition and finds it not there. So you could see that just clipped off on the bar.
Bummer there for her. In transition, most likely, and again, refs only see what they see, but most likely in transition, we kind of get a bye on that one because there's plenty of people to pick that up, and you consider transition kind of a neutral zone, like an aid station, so to speak. But we're back with our men's leader and continuing to push the pace on the front of this course. And again, that is Hannes Butters.
That's, from Germany. Young guy, probably part of one of the German teams there, but probably loving the fact that he is leading this race. Very few results to his name, so very new into the racing. And
Sid, you can see just by his energy, we've not seen him look over his shoulder once. He seems calm and controlled, but it doesn't look like an athlete that is like physically, quote unquote, waiting for the group. I think he's probably aware that most likely the group or people will catch him, but it's not his tactic to be like, okay, I'm going to get a gap and then I'm just going to like soft pedal and let them come by. He's riding his race at his watch. You can see that computer right in front of him. He can stay in that aerodynamic position. See him getting some of his hydration out as well, but he's taking those big, deep, controlled breaths, and we can see that Hannes Butters is definitely pushing the pace. Is that red? It looks red, and that means that the athlete behind is a little bit tight, but these athletes are...
So is that made a move past?
Okay, so that's what that red light was flashing as the athlete was within that 12 meters drafting zone. There's 3 different colors that this little unit will share with the athletes. It's blue, orange, and red, and that red tells them that they need to either move all the way through and get past to that next athlete, or if they've just been passed, like we just talked through, they need to get out of that red zone as quickly as possible. But there's no color on that athlete, so we know the athlete behind is in a good spot. And we can see there that is flashing red or orange. Looks like it went full orange there for that athlete. There's a little lag, so when they get past, they're still showing that, red flashing for the athlete that like just passed, just prior to that. So that is bib number 54 cruising in the front group. So that is Philippe Paulin from France, and looking comfortable right now in again this chase group at the moment.
Yeah, so these are the race ranger units that you're seeing on the back of the bike, and ideally you want to be sitting with either no light or a blue light, which is sitting 12 to 40 meters behind the rider in front. A solid orange light means you are 14 to 17 meters. Obviously, no light is your gap to the rider in front is above 17 meters. And as Matt was saying, if you see a flashing red light, you are within the draft zone and you need to move past fairly quickly, or as you said, if they've just been passed, they need to move back themselves.
Yeah, and there's always a way out. right? And that's what's kind of cool about this Race Ranger system is it gives you details on exactly how tight you are. And our refs still kind of use common sense, and they'll use the Race Ranger as a guide. They're not just going off of these colors that the computer's giving them. But point is, the athletes, if they know the rules correctly, when they're being passed or they're passing on their own, there's always a way out for you not to get a penalty. And knowing the rules ahead of time and thinking about the situation before it actually occurs is what's going to allow those athletes to have the best chance of success as we go through there. And that athlete is bib number 67.
Ron Eppel.
Yeah. So Ron Eppel having a great race at the front of this group. And you can see he's got a bunch of hydration on board, and he is focused on that athlete and maybe even that Race Ranger in front of him, Sid.
I'm going to be picky now because that's what we can do. I'd love to see him drop his head a little bit more.
Let's do it. We'll get a radio to him. But update, the male pros have gone through that 16-kilometer mark. So Hannah Butters has gone through 43 seconds now in front of Sam Dickinson. So spread it out. You were right. Sam did drop off. Panagiotis Batados is at 56 seconds. Eustace Nischlag is at 58. Kelly Heens is in that group at a minute back with Kasper Stepniak at 101. Nils Lawrence at 102, Mark Dubrick at 122. So none of our favorites have really bridged up to this front group that weren't in there, but big movers and one on screen, certainly right now getting himself to the front of this chase group. We'll see how far to the front of the course he gets after this break.
Leader of the women's race, Caroline Pohl. She had a lead out the water. The women are through 3.7 kilometers. She's still in the lead and has about a 30-second gap to Sif Bendix Magnuson, Marta Sanchez, Kate Coran, and then a little bit further back, Kat Matthews is a minute back. And we have our top three fastest females through Transition 1 presented by Morton. Kaidi Kivioja at 1:35, Sylvia Lothseth 1:38, and Kat Matthews 1:39. Just testing me with all the names.
Yes, it's you happy that I volunteered you to be.
However much I practiced before the race, when it comes to saying them, you still kind of like mess it up on the spot.
Oh yeah.
I apologize to the women. We're doing our best.
Well, we certainly are, and I know that they appreciate that. But women on screen continuing to push the pace and has a comfortable gap at this point, and we're going through just 3.7 kilometers is the split that we have for Caroline Pohl. And that's 27 seconds in front of Sif Bendix Madsen, then Marta Sanchez, Kate Curran, Luisa Jogna-Prat. And Kat Matthews is at 55 seconds. So she's already pulled through and gotten in front of some of those other athletes that got out of the water in front of her. Yep.
Yeah, so that's a good, actually, combo there of Kat and Lisa, both very strong cyclists. I think Lisa is, I've lost count of the number of times she's won the Swedish national time trial. Many is the answer to that.
And Lauren Brandon just a second behind them as well, so she'll do her best to try to keep up. Maja Stage Nielsen 1:21 behind. Tamara Jewett at 2 minutes. And Els Visser, that athlete we were talking about, a fair bit back and at 3 minutes. But again, we are with now our men's leader, Hannes Butters. We are cruising through this course here. Men are coming up on 40 kilometers in, and women have just gone through 25 kilometers. So a lot more action for these athletes, but they've already gone through a fair amount of swimming and a fair amount of cycling already, Sid.
Yeah, that's right. And you could see then that aerial view, and you can see it now as well, a huge chase pack on the bike as they're going around I'm going to call it a lollipop at the end of the far end of the bike course.
Yeah, and
what are you seeing?
We're seeing, I believe, that is Peter Hemmerich has already made his way to the front of this chase group. I think there's still one athlete in between. Nils Lorenz, I believe, is in between these two athletes we see on screen right now, trying to get a bib number there. It looks like that
74 or 40, no, 34.
34. So
that's our local Estonian Henry Rapo.
Yeah, so he's back in the group a fair bit, but the athlete that we saw on screen just a second ago, Peter Hemmerich, was cruising through the front, pushing the pace as best as he could, and trying to get himself to the front to put himself in that position to have as much control over the race as possible.
Yeah, so currently on screen we are seeing bib number 34, Henry Rapo. He is from Estonia. He was 23rd here last year, but he is six-time Estonian champion and comes from a short course background. And I think like we're seeing a lot this year, either if athletes knew beforehand a few months ago that they weren't going to make the Olympics, they have moved up the distance, and then those that we're also seeing once the Olympics is over, they're then throwing their hat in the ring for the 70.3 distance and probably hoping to get a slot for the 70.3 World Championships in 2025 in Marbella. And there's 4 pro male slots and 4 female slots on offer today, and 75 for the age groupers so this is actually the first race for 2025 qualification.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and athletes like Rafa would be looking for that. Right now,
Yeah.
he's all the way back in 16th place, chasing this chase group that, again, is about a minute and 10 seconds behind our leader is the majority of this chase group, about 120. So he's got a little bit of catching up to do. Might have missed that ride, but you can see now that this group is starting to spread out because of that injection of pace by Peter Hemmerich. And I mean, this dude knows how to ride a bike. And if there's often you look at like the quote unquote Uber cyclists, and a lot of them really shine on tough courses because the tougher the course, the more time they're out there, the more they can take advantage of their cycling ability. But with Peter Hemmerich, he actually rides on the trainer most of the time. He's in his basement. He's a former teacher. He just kind of went to full-time triathlon a few years ago. But this dude excels the most on very, very flat, fast courses, which is kind of counterintuitive to what we think of when we think of a cyclist of his caliber. But he's totally blown this group apart.
Yeah, I mean, he can just because he's used to probably that, like the time on the trainer and things like that, he's just can put his head down and power on a almost just individual time trial ineffective. He's he had a really good year like a few years ago and then has struggled a little bit, but then came back at the end of last year with some good results.
Yes.
And then this year it's been a little bit mixed, has sort of alternated between DNFs and finishes. So if the pattern goes on his results, so this year it's a DNF today, which I hope is not the case.
Yeah,
I hope he does break that.
I think he's gonna break that. But on screen right now we have our
Grace
women's
Tech
chase group, and that is Grace Tech. See her grimace smiling here as we check out her position and just kind of get a real view of what her energy is looking like as she is in this chase group.
Yeah, Grace is she's a great swimmer, and we saw her coming out with one of those front packs on the swim. She isn't as strong on the bike, but she is a great runner, so I wouldn't be surprised to see her coming through later on the run.
And there we go, that's Pamela Oliveira, and she's just in front. So right now, that was Grace Tech, was actually 2:23 behind through our last check, and looks like Pamela has moved in front of Grace. She was behind her at that previous check, so moving along quite well, and very experienced athlete. When you expect to see Pamela shine, is it the swim or is it over a tougher race, or where do you expect to see her shine?
I'd definitely say that the swim is her strength, so you see her normally coming out in that front pack.
Yep.
And then obviously, I mean, all these athletes are very good swim, bike, and run. So we're obviously being relative to the others on the field. But I say, the swim is definitely her strength. And sometimes she can have a good bike and a good run. I think she's had some good races, probably more in the more hot, humid conditions. Maybe it's not quite as challenging enough condition-wise for her today. But yeah.
There we go. And this athlete here is Solveig Lofstedt. She is still chasing. And again, these athletes now are over 2 minutes behind our front athletes. So she's 1:17 back now. So in the last 10 kilometers, she's lost 20 seconds. And that means Kat Matthews is hunting her down as well at 1:22. So just 5 seconds back. But Carolyn Pohl continues to be the fastest mover out on the course.
Yeah, she's having a great race so far. Still out in the lead as we have our Norwegian athlete again on screen. Riding pretty well as well. Fairly good aero position. Now her aero bars are kind of come up quite bent at the end. Yeah,
a little bit. Gets her hands in front of her face a little bit. You know, each athlete, their their biomechanics are different, and what's going to work as an aero position for them might not be what's going to work for somebody else. And she's got some pretty long forearms, so having those hands above or as close to kind of her chin as possible is going to again take up a little bit of that space. But gaps behind those athletes through 31.2K. Again, we had Kat Matthews 122 back, 5 seconds behind Sif Bendix-Madsen. Then we had Kaida Kivova at 2:06, Lisa Norden at 2:12, Emily Morier at 2:31, Marta Sanchez at 2:34, and Lauren Brandon at 2:36.
Yeah, a little bit surprised that Kat has ridden away from the likes of Lisa Norden, but then we all know Kat has probably got the bit amongst her teeth of getting that 100% record and getting maximum points, as we are with our number 34, Henry Repo, again, our local Estonian.
Getting some local exposure. Well deserved for our local athlete here, but cruising around on this.
Looks like he's a bit in no man's land. It looks like he's in no man's land as well, yeah. Which is hard when you can see, well, I don't know if you can see them at the moment. Yes, you can see the athletes coming round on the other side. It's hard when you see a pack of athletes going in the opposite direction and you are on your own. So this is coming to the end of lap 1, coming to the turnaround, as we are going to get some VinFast performance stats on our leader, I believe, coming up as Henry Repo finishes first lap and starts his second lap.
Yeah, manages that 180 pretty well.
It's quite tight coming out of there.
It certainly is, and he's back on it, pushing that pace and doing his best to bridge up to the front, but at this point he's probably going to have to wait for athletes behind to get out of that no man's land. But this is our VinFast performance analysis on the bike for Hannes Butters, 140.46, and that's 49.11 kilometers an hour. Crazy stuff, and appreciate VinFast to giving us that data to share with y'all.
Yeah, and just to update on the leading the men's race. So as we said, Hannes Butters is in the lead, but we've had a big move from Robert Callen from Sweden, who is now a minute back, but in second place. No real surprise to see Robert Callen making his move on the bike. Tends to be where his strength lies. I think he rode one of the fastest times in... I think it was in Vitoria. One of the fastest times on the bike for the bike course went 3:54. So yeah, no real surprise to see Robert Callen now making his moves, and he's up to second place. Nils Lorenz is also a minute back in third, and then 1:22 back to Peter Hamrick, Kasper Stepniak, Ella Gaines, Panagiotis Bitados, Kevin McDowell. So there's a big group. Justin Nishlak, Leonard Arnold as well in that chase group.
Yeah, and as you said, Callen is an incredible cyclist. So we saw a 3:54 bike split. No, that's not a 70.3 finish time. That's a bike split for 112 miles or 180K. And then 4:03. His slowest Ironman bike split this year was at Texas, and that's a 4:03.
His slowest.
Which is absolutely bananas. He's gone under 2 hours a few times on the bike at 70.3 distances, a fair amount of times actually. And at least 2 under 4 hour Ironman bike splits. So absolute powerhouse when it comes to putting out big splits. So no surprise that he's moving himself up. But right now we are with Kivova Kati from Estonia, and she is riding in front of a decent little group of 4 to 5 athletes, depending how much it's spread out at the back.
And I am finding it quite interesting that on the men's side, we don't have anyone from our top 20 in the current overall Ironman Pro Series racing today. So yeah, Robert Callen is the highest. He's sitting at 22nd. But yeah, on the women's side, we do have 4 women in the top 20 racing. So a little bit different strategy maybe of races.
And do we think some of that's maybe coming from the fact that a lot of athletes raced Frankfurt last week, which they'd be too tired to then do it. And those athletes that raced Frankfurt last week got a lot more points. So that's why they're kind of in that top 20. So good observation. And I'm just trying to justify maybe why we're seeing that. But Robert Callan trying to get those 70.3 points on board.
Yeah, I wonder if the other thing is a lot of the men are now sort of maybe having a reset and going into a training block leading into Kona, the Ironman World Championships, whereas the women, because the VinFast Ironman World Championships in Nice is only in 4 weeks' time, they're getting they're coming in and putting a race down to kind of build into that.
Totally, kind of like racing into the race, where the men, some of them, if they didn't race a race like Frankfurt or Lake Placid, are back and trying to put in, the long miles and the build up for the VinFast Ironman World Championship in Kona. And here we go, overhead shot of our athletes. Now a great shot of the coastline in Tallinn. Again, beautiful, beautiful zone. And as you said, lots of forest. But interesting to see that Callan has kind of, he had that target, wanted to catch up to our race leader, and then it's kind of sat near that legal distance and settled in, and then instead of going straight by. But it looks like now he's going to take the lead from our leader, who's been out there for over an hour and a half, 2 hours on the nose almost, is Hannes Butters. And we'll see if there's any interaction between the Swede and the German as he makes a pass. A little look over, little word said. Looks like
it's getting a bit windy out there. It does. Crosswind coming in as they're heading back into town. And I wonder if Robert Callan just sort of measured his effort as he came up behind Hannes, and then has sort of put in that surge, went past pretty easily, and has got back into the distance. It's like you see, definitely the wind coming across.
Leader rhymes with Talon, Robert Callan. No coincidence there.
See what you did there.
I did. Thank you. I think I had to spell it out for myself.
You've been planning that all through the ad break.
I never even noticed it till just then. It just comes to me. But so right now, those two athletes again riding together, Robert Callan and Hannes Butters, are 2 minutes now ahead of our two chasing athletes, Leonard Arnold and Nils Lorenz, and that's going to continue to open up on the other athletes chasing behind in that kind of main field chase back that we were talking about.
Yeah, that's right. And then just update on the women's side, they're through almost pretty much 60 kilometers, but we've had quite a split of that chase pack after Carolina Pohl in the lead and Sif Bendix Madsen, Kat Matthews. They're now over 2 minutes behind, so dropped a bit of time, 2:10, 2:11. And then the chase group that we had behind is all sort of splintered. So Solveig Lofseth is in fourth. She's ridden up to fourth, but she's got a gap to Marta Sanchez, another gap back to Emily Morea. Kaidi Kivioya is again further back, and Lisa Norden and Lauren Brandon have also splintered off the back. Lots happening. Yeah,
there's a lot happening. And the men's field, Rodrigo Acevedo is actually DNF'd. Just got that report from out on course. As we can see, nice overhead shot of our first few athletes. And then Sid, it looks like, again, it's 3 minutes to Kevin McDowell, who was in that group, behind Peter Hemmerich and Kasper Stepniak, who are 2:50 down. So that's now 3 minutes to our leaders from there. And Justice Nischlag, Anthony Costas, that group has actually bridged up. So that group has gotten bigger. It doesn't look like the American Dubrick made it across with those three athletes, because he was kind of at the tail end of that group. But now we're talking about, Sid, a distance or time gap that then does put it into the space for a Robert Callan or Hannes Butters, even though they're 117, 118 runners, might not have or might have enough of a gap to be able to hold that over some of our pre-race favorites.
Welcome back to Ironman 70.3 European Championships in Tallinn. We are with Kat Matthews on the screen. She is trying to chase down Caroline Pohl, who is our leader in the women's race. 2 hours 07 or 2 hours 08 on the clock race time. And they're about 2 minutes 15 down off our leader. I think for Kat, probably still a very achievable time to run down.
Robert Callan already getting his shoes ready to get off the bike.
So they're coming up to the turnaround at the end of the laps, at which point they will go straight past, this time, they will go past that turnaround and into T2, I believe.
They are going so fast. I cannot believe how quickly he's getting through this course. We were told this was going to be an incredibly fast course, and no doubt it certainly has been.
So T2 is right there. He somehow has to merge across traffic, I believe. But T2 is...
There you go, a little look over his right shoulder. Yeah, we can see the lead moto pulled over there as well.
And the arrows there pointing him to the right. So yeah, he is coming in. We'll see what time he comes in for that bike split.
Yeah, so right now he's still right there. He's gone through the next little split at 90.9 kilometers. As you said, bike course also a little bit long. So
that's true.
The time that he's got with, I think it's almost about a mile long compared to our normal course, he's still going to be well under or just under 2 hours with an extra mile, which is absolutely insane. But again, he's the world record holder over the Ironman distance. No surprise that he could do something similar over that 70.3 distance. So there he is on and over the mat. As we see, Hans Butters is just 30 seconds behind him at this point. So
he dropped him at the end, yeah.
He did, yeah, certainly. And now they're through, or he's getting through transition, doing his best to run through there smoothly, make sure nothing falls off his bike. He's being pretty focused on that.
He reminds me of Chris Froome when he was running through.
Running up a hill.
Very tall. Yeah, but very tall. Athlete.
So again, that is 1:57:20, Sid, and that's also on a bike course that was 56.8 miles long, so 0.8 miles longer than normal.
Yeah, and actually the course best time for Tallinn was by Sebastian Kinley, who we know is a very rapid rider.
It's okay.
In 2020, and it was 1:57:30, and that was when it was shorter. So as we see on screen, the Wahoo Element Bolt, 1:57:20, first off the bike, Robert Callan. So new course best and longer distance.
Yeah, you could add at least a minute 45, more like 2 minutes off of that to get what realistically he went. So pace very, very quick through that. And this guy's already through the bike and the swim, 2:23:20 as he enters the Hoka run course, and a quick transition for him as well. And again, Robert Callan at the lead of our race, and looks smooth, letting it open up.
Yeah, it looks like he's running really well. So I guess, what is he, 30 seconds on Hannes in second, and then he would, 3 minutes now it wasn't it, back to that chasing group. So, and I'm definitely within range.
Totally, and I'm betting it's going to be more than 3 minutes, considering the time that he put in on his station. It looks like he dropped something out of his little bag there, but doesn't stress out too much. Just make sure he goes back, picks it up. Maybe that was a watch or electrolyte tabs or something there, but he did come out of transition with 26 seconds on this athlete on screen, Hannes Butters. And Leonard Arnold has gone through that 91-kilometer mark at 2:43. And Sid, that was the athlete that was in between the gap. So we are going to see most likely over 3 minutes to those that chasing group with our favorites behind our leader on screen right now, Robert Callan.
Yeah, and also Hannes Butters looked really good running out of T2. And also interesting to see that the run course comes out as the bike course goes in, and if Robert can get further along, then he's out of sight for the athletes coming to T2. They're not gonna see him.
Dude, and tell us about the mind game that is when you're riding in and you see somebody running and they're like a half mile on the run already. Like, what the heck what's going on here?
Yeah, I was about to swear, but I'm not allowed to do that. They'd have to beat me out. But it is a head. Messes with your head. I should put it that way.
There you go. I like it. We see one of our athletes coming through here. I believe that is Leonard Arnold. He's now in T2, and again, he's 2:40 behind, in front of Nils Lorenz, who's going to be about another. You see him right there. He's already on that one-sided pedal. Gets off the bike. Right now we can see our top 3 fastest male transition times presented by Martin. That's Stepniak, 39 seconds, Dickinson, 39 seconds, Yeli Heens in 41. No surprise, a few Olympians in the fight for the podium on the Morton transition time.
Yeah, that's right. And with that split screen, we're getting shots of Hannah Spusis, who was our leader out the water and leader into most of the bike until Robert Callan caught him, as we see Mark Dubrick come crashing down before the dismount line.
Oh, no, that's not good at all. Mark is not having the smoothest race at this point. And we're back with our leader, Robert Callan, cruising through the early sections of this run course. We'll get some splits. First split through is about 4 kilometers between Mark Dubrick. He's got a shoe in his hand, and he's chasing those athletes in front of him. Having a solid race. I don't know what he's kind of looking around. Looks a little bit lost.
I think that fall might have disorientated him a little bit. I didn't actually see what happened when he came to the dismount line. It is, I guess, quite narrow coming onto that blue carpet. We see that's Tom Davis from the UK coming through there as well. Didn't catch the number of the other athlete, but I'm sure we will get it as we look like we're back with, that looks like a Kat Matthews bike, currently in second place. But yeah, still 2:15 down off the leader at 74.7. It's not a Kat, well, it's our leader, Caroline Pole, but similar bike. But yeah, still got the lead.
Certainly
Smashing
does.
It.
2:13 in front of Sif Bendix Madsen at that last split, and 2:15 to Kat Matthews, and a further minute 15 back to our 4th place athlete. So again, just looking comfortable. It doesn't look like she's overextending at this point, and she's putting it in a spot where she's going to make Kat Matthews bridge up. And Sif Bendik Madsen is putting herself in a position to have a podium shot. Don't really see Sif Bendik Madsen moving up and really fighting for to take over the woman on screen right now, but she's definitely put herself in a good position in this European Championship to have a podium. And on the left-hand side of the screen, Robert Callan making his way through the early sections of this bike course and making it look easy. Yeah, and Leonard Arnold's kind of the last year or two really put himself in conversation to be one of these better athletes in the sport. And it looks like he's actually bridging up to Robert Callan already. So we haven't had a split through here.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, and I mean, this guy ran 2:42 at Ironman Switzerland last year and put himself out there to do so. And he is
I feel he's just come out of nowhere.
He has. I mean, he was 2:24 behind off of the bike, gives a high five.
But he was only just passing Hannes.
Yeah, who was, again, we haven't had that split recently, but last split we had was 30, 45 seconds. And you can already see immediately Callan is heavier on his feet than he was before he just got passed. Looking over his shoulder, he feels a little bit dejected, but he needs to now just kind of get himself composed and do his best to hold on to the pace that he's been running. And it looks like we might be missing kind of our first split out on course at the 3.5 kilometers. So we might not get a full detailed split on these athletes to about 8 kilometers, hopefully. But right now, it certainly is this athlete on screen that is pushing the pace. She's kind of,
It's quite tricky, that, isn't it? Sort of having to cross over the age group athletes coming out of transition and starting their bike course. Not wanting to cause any accidents or anything. But
no.
She managed to do that successfully.
She has, and she's doing so while she's in pole position.
She is.
That's a good one. I won't take credit for that. We had Aaron from Ironman give me that. He knows I like the cheesy calls, but she is in pole position. She's in first place, and she is racing her bike like an F1 racer would race a car. So I think she deserves that moniker at this point. And, again, she's already out of those shoes, takes that right leg, gets in that position to be able to run effectively. Once she gets off the bike right before that dismount line, you got to watch out for the shoe will get you. Sometimes you see those things hopping around, but doing a great job of having the level shoes as she runs into T2. Sid?
So I've been waiting. I'm waiting for the jokes, Matt. You said you promised
We'll get there.
jokes
We'll
in
get
there.
there. There's too
a
much.
couple of one-liners.
There's too much action. There's too much action right now for us to get to the jokes. But she's come through Sid with a time of 2:11.50, and again, that is on a long bike course of almost a mile. So, fantastic bike split from our women's leader.
Yeah, and just looking back at course best times, so last year, Laura Phillip went at 2:09.54. So, but that was obviously on 90 kilometers, as we see up on screen now. Our Wahoo Element Bolt, first female, first off the bike, Caroline Pohl, 2:11.50 for that 91.4 kilometer bike. I'd say that looks pretty normal for Kat.
Yeah.
She always looks like she's working quite hard.
She always is working quite hard.
She always is working quite hard. That is very true. Very true. Never one to, slacken back. But I'm just, I don't know, being, again, just looks like, maybe it's just the angle from now behind on Caroline, just looks like her stride has shortened a little bit. As she's heading out on these out and back sections on this run course, whereas you can see Kat still looks like she's very much charging.
Yeah, and if it's any sign, you can't see Bendix Madsen behind Kat at all. We would expect her to gain a gap on Bendix Madsen reasonably quickly, but it shows you how quick she's running through the early sections of this Hoka run course that you don't even have vision on it, but we'll probably get a split on these two athletes here soon enough. But yeah, she is powering through the early sections of this run course, and there's zero doubt she is running faster than Caroline Pohl from my vantage point.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, sometimes strides and stuff look distant as we go back to the men's race, and this looks like we have another challenge for the lead.
Yeah, so we've got a bridge up to first place from Pagniotis Pitados, and looking a little bit at his results, over the half distance. He did get a win earlier this year in Walshy running a 1:09.24. So he has some run speed, no doubt, that athlete. But again, it kind of depends. And putting a really big effort.
Surge.
Is that? It seems aggressive to put that dynamic of a surge in. He wants to be able to run alone and is just putting him rearview mirror because there's another lap to go, right?
Yeah, we're only at 8 kilometers as such, and he's looking over his shoulder now. So if you're gonna put a surge in like that, just go and keep looking forward. The fact that you've now, especially when you're then going around a turn, why look over your shoulder if you're not then doubting what you've just done? No
offense, but that's one of the weirdest attacks I've ever seen in a run in triathlon before. Again, it almost looked like he was a cyclist that thought there was one less lap than there was.
Yeah, he was sort of going for that sprint finish. And you see, look, Leonard Arnold hasn't let him get away.
He's probably just as confused as we are.
I think so. He's just saying, he actually looks like he's closing down again.
Is that not what you'd want, really, if you were Leonard? He just burned 2 matches when he only had to burn half of one, or
totally.
0 matches.
And then panicked because he now keeps looking over his shoulder, worried that he hasn't dropped. But we have our VinFast performance analysis, so 10.5 kilometers. Leonard Arnold, so estimated clock at the next split is 3:13.06. So that is total race time, but he is running 3:29 minutes per kilometer. But he's currently sitting in second place, but hasn't let our Greek friend get away, even though he did we just saw the attack, and he keeps looking over his shoulder. So I think he now settled back in. I'd have just sat there and then waited till the last lap.
And from what I can see, he's only has 2 half-distance races under his belt, at least in the elite category. So maybe a bit of that is experience. And I don't want to sound like I'm
say it anyway.
Bagging on this athlete or being negative, but that is really one of the weirdest and oddest, and again, a huge attack. He wants to break this athlete, but what he's doing, if Jelle Heens knew what was happening, he's 57 seconds behind.
Yeah.
He's running the same pace as Leonard Arnold. And if he could play a video game, he'd be like, let's have the guy in the lead put in these pointless attacks for no reason.
Yeah.
Because he's tiring himself out, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to put a huge effort in the final 2 miles of this run. Pagliaros is doing a favor to second and third place right now. It's crazy.
Because Leonard's just sitting there and going, oh, well, now I know what he does. He puts in a spurt and then comes back to me, so I'm just going to carry on at my pace, let him burn the matches.
He's doing it again. This is literally the weirdest thing.
And the fact that he keeps looking over his shoulder, so he's not confident. Why? I don't understand why you wouldn't at this point just settle in. You've obviously got a bit of sprint speed.
No, I mean, he's an amazing runner. I mean, clearly looking at him.
You don't need to break Leonard now. You've got another lap to go. Wait till you're in the last 2K.
And tell us about mentally what that's doing for Leonard. He's
laughing.
He's like literally laughing.
Yeah.
Right? Every time he's like, okay, you're going to put 3 meters on me again, and then you're going to spend 25 seconds looking over your shoulder, and I'm going to bridge it up. And I'm
just going to not change rhythm.
He might start playing with him too.
Yeah.
He might be like, you know what? This is when I'm going to bridge up to him. He's going to do it again. And he's kind of remote control racing the athlete in front of him because he knows every time he bridges up to his heels, he's going to do this attack that doesn't mean anything. It's so weird. And we are back at IRONMAN 70.3 European Championship Tallinn, and we can see Kat Matthews working her way towards the front of the course, chasing hard. We saw Carolyn Pohl come through this section not too long ago, but still a reasonable enough gap. Kind of just guessing, but I think it's around a minute. We can see Kat maybe getting a little bit hot. She finds some ice, puts that in her cap, but barely slows down at all and straight to it. Again, well-raced athlete. She knows what she needs to do to keep herself cool, and she's back on the pace.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, I know we heard a few people sort of mention how the run can sneak up on you with the heat. And we are getting quite a few DNFs from the race. And just one notable DNF, it was our male #1 bib and our 2023 champion. So Peter Heimrich is a DNF. So
you called it. Are you happy? Are you happy for yourself? You called it.
No,
you said he was going to DNF.
Yeah. Oh, I did actually, didn't I?
You did.
Oh gosh, it's like the commentator's curse.
Yeah, well, it didn't help.
He's just fulfilling his run of form, or not form. That's the wrong word. But
He's had some bad luck. Yeah, totally.
Pattern of racing.
Man, if we ever see her looking like she's faltering, she kind of comes right back. She looks great. And again, here's that form of an attacking looking athlete at the front of the men's.
He looks like he's now just running a 5K sprint.
It's crazy. This incredibly talented athlete, Pagniotis Patados, but it does look like...
Is that a lapped athlete, or is that one of the other men coming?
I believe that's still our second place athlete that's continuing just to bridge back up, and he's still looking over his shoulder every now and again, which is reasonable. You know, you get near the end of the race. This is, again, we've seen he had a great result, fourth place under U23 Worlds. He's had a couple 70.3 distance wins, locally to where he's around, and some great results for him. But this would by far be the biggest race result of his career, winning the IRONMAN 70.3 European Championship in Tallinn. And so it's okay to be looking over your shoulder a little bit as 20 years old, being a little bit nervous, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say, that shows nerves, doesn't it? It doesn't show confidence. Like, you've seen the gap at the turn, you've just gone round.
Yeah, no, he's
not gained that much time on you.
He's 20. It's nerves are a thing, and
or
these
lack of focus.
Yeah, these are the things that he's going to learn over time. And an athlete,
and just feeding the comments coming through online.
An athlete like we have on screen, Leonard Arnold. He's going to learn from the way the athlete in front of him is racing, and for himself too. But man, super surprised at the gap to Yeli Heens at 2:29 at this point. So the run from Pagniotis Patados is out of this world compared to the other athletes around him, even these pre-race favorites. And again, right now it looks like if he holds this pace, maybe he'll put another surge, but he's got 1:08.05 is estimated finish time, which again puts Leonard Arnold's run time very, very strong as well.
Yeah.
But just bananas running from Pagniotis Patados. A lot of time still left to go. Carolyn Pohl just now gone through the 10.5 kilometer mark. So again, just a little bit under halfway on this run course. So a lot can still happen, especially if you're an athlete that is that leaning towards diesel engine of Kat Matthews, where she's just not going to slow down.
Yeah, that's true. A few more updates. We are getting so many DNFs, unfortunately, today. So I was just looking at the tracker, and I hadn't thought I hadn't seen an update. Unfortunately, Lisa Norden is a DNF, and also Mintu Huka is a DNF as well, as we are back with our male leader, who is also not slowing down.
No, certainly not. He's just got a few hundred meters to go at this point to get to the finish, as we see. Looks like a turnaround maybe for Kat Matthews as she goes through. We're going to see her timing split come through here in just a moment. Again, Carolyn Pohl has gone through there, and Kat Matthews now 2:51. Wow. So she has lost 40 seconds to our women's leader, Carolyn Pohl. And that negative feedback, you're going to start to see that on the face and maybe the demeanor of Kat Matthews, as right now she is just simply getting beaten. This is when you want to really soak it up. This is first really big win in the sport of triathlon over the 70.3 distance, and it's going to be at a championship race, and it's Panagiotis Bitados.
That's right, and he's going to be one of the first athletes to book his ticket for 2025 Ironman 70.3 World Championships in Marbella, Spain next year, as he goes around. Well, it doesn't go around the turn because he takes the right-hand chute to the finish line.
Yeah, one more.
I wonder if he is soaking it in, because he looks like he's just sort of still going for it. There we go. There he is.
And now he's on the carpet, and he's bringing it in, and he's trying to get the crowd to pump him up. Reaching to the sky, and there it is, your 2024 Ironman 70.3 European Championship Tallinn winner. That is Panagiotis Bitados with a runtime of 1:09:18, an unofficial total time of 3:36:09. Again, Sid, that is with a long bike course, but not too long. This athlete hung right in there. Those attacks did not mentally break him. Left-hand quarter, he's getting on the carpet. He's getting that crowd involved. And this is your second place athlete at Ironman 70.3 European Championship, and he looks pretty pumped about it. And that is Leonard Arnold. Amazing race and run from him. 1:11:04 for Leonard Arnold. That is
just 35
fast.
Seconds in the end. So yeah, maybe he was right to look over his shoulder.
Yeah. And he looks like he's tired.
Yeah. And Bitados is with that 3:36:09. With the longer bike is one new run course record. Third place pro male come over the line, Jelle Heens.
There you go. He looks pleased with that finish, as he should be. Podium at the European Championship in Tallinn, and had to put it all out there. 1:12:20. Crazy that we're to the point, Sid, where a 1:12:20 gets you third place, and you lost 3 minutes to the gentleman who won the race. Unbelievable performance by those two athletes in front of Jelle. Pushing, as she has all day, Carolyn Pohl with Kat Matthews 2:51, Solveig Lofseth 4:16 behind, and then 7:18 to Emily Morier, and 9 minutes to our next athlete. So she is blowing this race apart.
Yeah, so excited to see what that next split comes through as. I think she's probably going to have put more time in, but let's see.
She's gone through 14.3K now, still rolling at a pretty fast pace. Actually, looks like she's increased. Now her estimated run finish time is 1:17:29. So she is not fading at all, and she's doing her best to put herself on the list for championship here at Ironman 70.3 European Championship Tallinn.
Yeah, that's right. And if you have a look on the top of the screen now that our male athletes, the winner has gone across the line. Bitados scored 2,500 points, and then you see what we call our countdown, which is for every second that an athlete is behind our leader, it's 1 point and 1 second gets deducted. So that is real time, the points counting down from that 2,500 that the pro men will get when they cross the line. And obviously then Caroline is still on track for 2,500.
She certainly is, and that's Anthony Costas coming across the finish line. Absolutely cruising, Carolyn Pohl.
She is. She looks fantastic. She now, the women are through 14.3 kilometers. She now has a 3:28 lead over Kat Matthews, and it's then 1:30 from Kat back to Solveig Lofseth. Sorry, get my words out. But those three look like they're pretty firm for the podium. Anything could still happen. Like there's still 6-7 Ks to go, but Caroline's looking pretty good for staying in control at the moment. You can't see anyone behind her with that 3-minute 30 gap.
And it looks like Kat Matthews has maybe found a bit of a second win, because this looks a lot better than the last time we saw her on screen.
Yeah, you're right. It does actually. She does look like she's charging again, Kat. So yeah, maybe we'll wait to see if we get another split. Maybe she's had some information and she's been able to rally and sees the gap coming down. Maybe someone said that, yeah, Caroline looks like she's struggling more. I'm not sure she is, but she, like you said, she did look like the stride was a little bit short and she was sitting a little bit low. But yeah, Kat looks like she's found a mojo again.
Yeah, certainly has, but both these athletes looking great. Didn't look like anybody's going to falter anytime soon, but always like to see Kat kind of on that gas, and you can see when she's leaning forward, it almost looks like she's just consistently running downhill. Third place athlete on screen, Solveig Lofseth, just further about 90 seconds behind Kat Matthews.
So just a couple of kilometers left for these women, as we're seeing for our male pros finishing. Points count down to 1,154 now. Caroline is going to be pretty short, taking that 2,500 points, and it was 3 minutes 40. So actually she's still, even though Kat was charging, she's still putting time into Kat, which is a little bit of a surprise. And we are going to shortly head down for our men's podium presentation.
Yeah, she certainly does have a substantial gap. Doesn't have to worry about that. And obviously that out and back helped her kind of know. But again, as we saw with our male winner, when you're going to possibly have the biggest win of your career, there's no amount of looking back too much when you're within the last 500 meters, because sometimes it's just hard to believe, and you don't want to be that person that everybody sees mismanage it, right? But it's almost a too good to be true situation, and that's kind of just the athlete's response to it.
Yeah, and hopefully as she now makes that final section onto she's going to hit the carpet, blue carpet, I should say, pretty soon, and realization that she's won the IRONMAN 70.3 European Championships. As Leonard Arnold, our second place male, was on the sideline there cheering her on, as she is about to take that right-hand fork to U-turn around to the finish line.
Yeah, right there. She's got her hat on. She's putting everything in her pocket. You want to make sure you're looking good to go when you get around that corner, and that this is going to be a picture that certainly on maybe her parents' fridge or her own fridge, but certainly one that she's going to want to remember and be prepared for. But she's on the red carpet, and here she comes. She cannot believe it. Emotions fill up our athlete in tears as she comes across the finish line. Your 2024 Ironman 70.3 European Championship Tallinn winner, Carolyn Pohl.
I love how she's looked so composed all day, and then just all the emotion flows over in the last sort of 20 meters. And you can see now how much that means to her to take the win here and beat some incredible, some of the best females in the sport at the moment, as we got our Wahoo Element rival, female pro champion Caroline Pohl, in a run time of 1:20.17.
Red carpet is Kat Matthews. She's got her hands over her head as well. She's got some emotion. Second place at the Ironman 70.3 European Championship Tallinn is Kat Matthews, and she is so stoked for her competitor. Look at the joy on both of those athletes' faces. That's awesome.
And yeah, look at it at the end. She did pull back a bit of that time, just a 3-minute deficit at the end. I think it had gone out to 3:40 at one point, and a 1:20.55 run for Kat Matthews.
And so that's 179 points off of 2,500 by my math that Kat is going to get. So pretty darn close to perfect, but not quite. But amazing racing from Kat. Again, an athlete that's very much putting all of her effort into the VinFast Ironman World Championship in Nice. So to have the ability to have that good of a race, pretty darn quick in the end, 4:02:39 on the polar opposite course that she is training for in Nice. Very flat, fast course here, and obviously a twice as long and more than twice as hard course over there in Nice. So Kat Matthews, I'd say she's in a pretty good spot for what she's preparing for. Sid, we've got our third place athlete coming across the finish line.
Yep, that's right. Third place at Ironman 70.3 European Championships Tallinn from Norway is Solveig Lofseth.
There you go. We can tell she put all the effort in that she could for the day. Can't quite tell right now if she's happy about it or not, but I'm sure she'll take some time to celebrate. We'll see her on the podium. Kat Matthews, true class of an athlete, first to go over and try to do her best to the camera. Kat just got denied for giving her competitor a high five. Love to see Kat and her attitude. It doesn't look like she's too upset about her result being Kat Matthews, but love her attitude.
There's a hug.
Amazing race. Quick impressions from you in the men's and women's race.
Yeah, both probably a little bit surprise winners for me, but both fantastic races and very well deserved the way Caroline attacked from the start and got that lead in the run-in on the water, and in the men's side really attacked on the run. Probably a little bit surprised that some of our Olympic distance athletes on the men's side didn't have a better day, and so many DNFs as well today, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, a lot of those names we expected to be near the front of the race just simply weren't there in the end. But amazing opportunity for some breakthrough performances by the athletes that were there and did capitalize when given the opportunity to do so. And things are closing down here at the Ironman European Championship 70.3 Tallinn, and we are going to clock off here in just a second, but clearly you can keep track of your favorite athletes that you're tracking on our Ironman Tracker app, and there is our men's pro results. That top 10, again, we saw Pagniotis Batatos have a breakthrough result and get himself top step there in the men's race. And then on the women's side of things, we also saw a breakthrough performance, one that was not expected from our first place athlete, Carolyn Pohl, and she, bested one of the best in our sport, Kat Matthews, as well as some other pre-race favorites, but amazing racing from our men's and women's field.
And then taking a look at our overall Ironman Pro Series on the men. So no real change from today's racing. Matt Hansen still sits at the front, Jackson Laundry in second. Most of those results stay the same coming off the back of the Minova Ironman European Championships last week. And on the women's side of our Pro Series standings, again, not too much of a change. Jackie Herring, Danielle Lewis and Maya Stage Nilsson, Kat Matthews all at the top. Actually, Kat Matthews is the only one that will have moved up. She was 7th before this race. Now adding that 70.3, she moves up to 4th.
There we go. Amazing performances. And again, a lot of racing happening, tight racing in that Pro Series. But this concludes our coverage of Ironman 70.3 European Championship Tallinn. The next Ironman Pro Series broadcast will be Sunday, September 1st at Ironman 70.3 Zell MC Kaprun. Coverage will begin at 10:30 a.m. Central European Time, 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Watch the live broadcast for free. It will air exclusively on Outside TV in the United States and in Canada. Globally, you watch on proseries.ironman.com, DAZN, and L'Equipe live. For our entire team, alongside Laura Siddall, I'm Matt Lieto, and thank you so much for watching.
This copyrighted broadcast of World Triathlon Corporation may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without express written consent of World Triathlon Corporation.